Solstice, and it's by a woman named Irene Latham. Okay. No more hurry, hurry. Time now for firelight and dreaming, for church bells mingling with the cold, quiet sunlight. And somewhere, deep inside of you, a kernel of courage unfurling, each day more light. And somewhere deep inside of you, a kernel of courage unfurling, each day more light. So one of the rituals that I've done probably for, probably 40, 50 years is to throw the coins of the I Ching every New Year's Eve. And that's one way. It's just, I don't usually do things like that anymore, but I continued to do that over the years. And I don't know what happens, but it's pretty interesting. So this last New Year's, I threw the coins and I got a hexagram I'd never gotten before. And it was hexagram 51, which is shocking. And I'll read you just the first line of it. So I won't read it all. It wasn't what I wanted, for sure. But it says, the sudden force of stored and kinetic energy in the cosmos will be released in a powerful and shocking display. Like the awesome clap of a thunderbolt that explodes in the hush moments before a storm. Well, I didn't know what to make of it. And then we had January 6th, and I thought, oh, that's terrible. And that's it. But I don't know about you, but I find that there is these last couple of years particularly, are things that I never really anticipated happening, never really thought were, I never thought about them. And they've changed everything in a lot of ways. I think we can't begin to really acknowledge or understand how much has been changed. So all the more reason for working with this or spending some time to evaluate where each of us has come to through this period of change. And another thing that I have done off and on for a few years comes from a book called The Not So Big Life. I don't know if any of you have read that book. It's pretty interesting. I don't have the author. I don't have the book with me right now. But she wrote the book, The Not So Big House. But in this book, The Not So Big Life, she outlines a ritual that can be done. She talks about it as that in the ancient Egyptian calendar, they used to allow a week, 5 days, I guess, that were just considered kind of extra days. And there were days to spend just evaluating one's life and where you were and where you wanted to go. And so she devised this whole ritual or process around that. And I've tried doing it. I've never been able to spend 5 days just evaluating my life, although I think it's noble practice, and I would like to do that more. But I have looked through, spent some time just evaluating where the year has come to and where I am now, and what am I thinking about in terms of the future. And so I thought what we could do here is that I'm going to read you a few things about the process of change and the process of where we're of evaluating. And then I'm going to read you just a sampling of a few questions that might be helpful to use to do an evaluation. And then, or in that process, I'd like to hear from you too, what you're noticing, or what you would like, how you would respond or begin to think about them. They're big questions. She says, this is one of the author's quotes: "The process is very similar to sowing seeds. When you plant a garden, you don't sit and stare at the seeds until they sprout. You know that some will germinate and some will not, but it's not up to you to make them grow. All you can do is set the conditions for their growth with good soil, adequate water, and the right amount of sun. In exactly the same way, all that you can do for your own unfolding is to set the conditions by slowing down a bit. That's the good soil. Giving yourself the gift of your own presence in your life. That's the water. And meditating regularly to help open to more of who and what you really are. And that's the sun. None of this can take place, however, without sowing seeds. And that's what this exercise does. And so you have to kind of take the time to evaluate and see where you want to go and where you are with this. So, so what she lists is a very long list of questions, and I've selected a few here for just tonight to take a look at. And they are in sections. There's the past, the present, and the future. So what ones that I highlighted here for us to look at are, the first one is, how have I spent my time during this past year? And because, we've had so many things happen. The COVID is a major thing, and all the ramifications of that. We haven't spent our time, I'm guessing I haven't, and maybe exactly the way I would have planned or exactly the way I thought I would. So how have you spent your time this past year? The second question is, what has inspired me over the past year? So that's a huge question, because there's all kinds of things. I'm not expecting everybody to have their answers all figured out tonight, but these are things to kind of contemplate over time. What blessings have I received during the year? One of the things that comes up for me is just, I'm blessed to have spent this year in relatively good health and in connection with Sangha and with wonderful people, and having the opportunity to hear wisdom from so many people and read about so much wisdom. So those are ways to look at what we have received. And then this, I think, is a really interesting question. Something that I've been found the circumstances that I've been living under for the last year or two helpful for this. What patterns and themes have I noticed in my life? She refers to it as my waking dream. And a similar question is, what conditioned patterns have I recognized, and what experiences have allowed me to see them more clearly? What experiences have you had that have allowed you to see them more clearly? A couple more from the past. What hidden beliefs have I uncovered in working with these conditioned patterns? So that's a that's a wonderful excuse me, a wonderful question, because what this driving force of these hidden beliefs that we have tucked away in our unconscious, subconscious since we were children often, and they drive so much of our patterns of living, of our habits, of our expectations, of our disappointments, of our dukkha, really, our uncomfortableness, because we have these beliefs that if I'm not likable, or if I'm not hard enough working, or if I don't have enough wealth, or if I don't have the newest gadget, I'm going to suffer, or I'm not going to be okay. So what hidden beliefs have I uncovered in working with conditioned patterns this past year? And then what new patterns of behavior have I adopted over the past year, and what effects have they had? So we've had to adopt some new patterns because here we are on Zoom. We're not sitting in that beautiful meditation hall sharing direct energy with each other, where we've found a way to be together, to interact, to that's a new pattern, and then this will change. So this is really interesting. So I have the present and the future, and I'm thinking that maybe we'll take a few minutes, and if people have anything that I've said so far about these, and I can read them again. And if a couple of people want to respond to something that really resonates for you, just unmute yourself, and because I can't see everyone at once. So the first two, which are not how you've spent your time, I'm not going to ask you that one. But what has inspired you over the past year, and what blessings have you received during the year? One or both of those, which are similar. Oops, I don't have my earphone on, so I wouldn't know if you.
So Maeve, this is Philip. I'd like to answer, but also I'd appreciate if you could repeat the title of the book that you got those from.
It's called the Not So Big Life. And for those of you who want to, the description of she goes through is about 4 pages long, and I can I can send it to you if you want, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway. So anybody have any inspirations or blessings they'd like to share from this year?
This is Philip. Sure, I do. I
Okay.
actually think one of the biggest blessings is what I've gotten from this Sangha and my Monday night meditations. It's really inspired me to slow down and spend more time thinking about myself and doing more intensive meditation. And I've started doing more reading than I've ever done, different reading in various books about life and exploration and personal growth. And I feel like it's been incredibly rewarding. You know, COVID's not been on my mind that much. I feel like I know how to take care of myself, so I'm not worried. But it's really been, I'd have to say, a remarkable year. I mean, one partnership ended and a new one seems to have begun. And there've been a lot of fascinating and learning and glorious things happen this year. So it's really been amazing. And I really give the Sangha and your Monday night presenters just a lot of credit, because there have been a lot of thought-provoking questions that have really had me go deeper than I've ever really gone before, because generally I've been really busy with everyday life and doing things, and in the past working, and slowing down has really been a big change for me. Thank you.
Yes, just a second here. It's Not So Big Life by Sarah Susanka, Susanka, who also wrote The Not So Big House. So thank you. Who else has something they'd like to share before we move on?
I have a small thing to share. My name is Hannah.
Yes.
And I gained some advice about introducing new habits to your life. And I wanted to try to add a Tai Chi practice into my life every day. And some advice I got was to just do like the smallest amount you can. And then it's like you have no excuse to say no, basically. So I've just been doing 5 minutes every morning, but yeah, like I've been able to stick to that because it's very manageable. And yeah, I appreciate that. So that was helpful.
Great.
Inspiration.
That's good advice. Yeah. I remember once going to see James Barras and talking about meditation that way, and how hard it is to meditate, to remember to meditate every day. And he said, you know, his practice at that time was to say to himself, I'm not going to end the day without meditation, even if it's only 10 minutes, you know, that every day that has to be a part of the day. But it doesn't have to be 45 minutes, or sometimes it can't be, but to make sure that you include it, then it becomes ingrained part of your life. So
yeah,
that works. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
This is Philip. I just want to thank Hannah for that great idea. You know, I was doing an hour of Tai Chi every Saturday, and I found myself moving away from that. So I'm going to totally try that 5 minutes every day. I think that's fabulous. Thank you for that idea.
Good, great. Anyone else have a
This is Marcia. You know, one of the blessings, I don't really know if it was this year or last year, but when things got very quiet around, like in town and just the neighborhoods and just the slowing, the way the quiet kind of struck me was, and the blessing in it was that I could notice things more, like natural things.
Yeah.
You know, even being in town, it was like I could hear the wind. I could, you know, I just was birds, or it just had more space around it somehow with
Yeah.
with more quiet. So that was a blessing from this
Thank you.
time.
Yeah. So the next one that I had highlighted here are what patterns and themes have I noticed in my waking dream, and what condition patterns have I recognized, and what experiences have allowed me to see them more clearly. I know myself, I found it's the quiet, the more spaciousness, the being more just at home. I've noticed things about my pattern of wanting to achieve a lot, or whenever I get overwhelmed or busy, how dysfunctional I become, and it really, just slowing down a little bit has allowed me to see that so clearly, that uh, um, that I have some new practices about that, of whenever I notice that the sensations of rushing, or the thoughts that I have to hurry, or that I have to do more, just stop, take some breaths, relax, and then go forward, do what I'm going to do, but not let the stress take over my experience, so that it's almost like I become a different person. I become the rushing, stressed person, as opposed to the person who's really fully absorbing the present moment. So anybody else have something that they've noticed about patterns of behavior that they are working with, or just noticed? Jen?
Yeah. I'm somebody who really resonates with human interaction tremendously. And so this slowing down and the COVID heavy blanket overlay has been really rough for me. And I have recognized this about myself, and I'm actually noticing that some of the ways that I understand the world is by talking to people in real time, you know, together. And so I'm just understanding and kind of appreciating that about my my wiring a little bit more, and really trying to honor it. And
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of no substitute. There's kind of no substitute. Texting is very nice, and Zoom is a-okay, and you know, hanging out with somebody in the flesh without masks on, you know, because we're in agreement and we've done things, you know, made choices to be healthy. It's really a big learning for me.
Mm-hmm. A blessing when you can do it, huh?
Yes, a huge blessing.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
to go without is not a good thing for me. It really isn't.
So there's, I would say, and tell me if you agree with me, that there's both a blessing and a serious loss in the fact that you can't. But the blessing is that we're talking right here, you know, and we're sort of seeing each other,
Yes.
and so there are poor substitutes
Yes,
or
and
lesser substitutes.
when I can, I park in one place and walk with my mask down and just be with the world, you know, whether it's like
Mhm.
complimenting people on their shoes. I mean, I can be very interactive.
That's
So
good.
I just
Gee, I didn't know that, Jennifer.
I build in interactive possibilities with masks down outside, and that really helps. It really
Good.
fills up something in me.
Great, great.
So
Anyone else?
Philip, write that one down too. Thanks, Maeve.
Yes. Any others? How about the hidden beliefs? Has anybody noticed that that's part of this, is that idea that we recognize that we carry around these beliefs that probably were embedded in our psyches when we were children, and we didn't, and we, some of this time has made it given enough space for us to recognize what's going on there, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gone or that it changes even, you know, it may, but the recognition that these things are driving our patterns of action, these beliefs that are not true, is a significant experience.
I do. This just makes me think about something I heard on NPR about this. I think a theater producer or something, or film producer that died, and someone was talking about him, and that he always recommended people becoming artists, and that that's a good path to take. And I was really like shocked to hear that for some reason, that it was like, oh my God, like, so that I think I have this belief that like I will not, like, being an artist is not sustainable in, like, financially, or it's just something that would be embarrassing to say to someone if they asked what you did. So it's like had to stay like in the sidelines for me, and and it's not something I've overcome. I still think I believe that, but I've at least wanting, I still want to like have more time devoted to painting and art practices. So
Yeah.
and that it's worthwhile to do that. It's so valuable for me. So
Yeah, that's a great insight, that you see that just because, you know, we don't monetarily reward artistic creativity, artistic kinds of creativity in this society very, very easily, that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile, and it's not important. It's extremely important to the culture, and it's extremely important to the individual. I've been reading quite a bit of Stephen Batchelor's work recently, and he talks a lot about creativity and how really through Buddhism and through mindfulness and meditation, and expressions of creativity are a manifestation of the practice, and I found that very inspiring. So, has anybody noticed that there are some new patterns of behavior that they've adopted? And I mean, Jen mentioned a little bit about how she's working with the limitations. to connect with her, what she's noticed as her habitual patterns and needs. Anybody else have something that they've developed to deal with change, or maybe the temporary conditions we're living under, if they are temporary?
This Mary,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same as Jen. I'm definitely a people interactor person. So, oh my gosh. But anyway, I'm also an artist. But what I found was I had to leave my world of music more, and I out more in nature. So I have that, of course I do both, but definitely over the pandemic, more has been switched to nature because I can do it without a mask, and it's sad, but I mean, this year is much better because I'm playing music with, vaccinated people indoors, not a whole different, but I'm still not wanting to go wear a mask to attend music events or something. I'm just not willing to do, I don't, it's uncomfortable. I'm a people person, I'm like, want to talk and, and it's just very different if you're not used to wearing it. So, but I would have to say my attention has definitely been more to nature than it has been in the past. And for the Sangha, thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so grateful. So,
Yes.
I really, I mean, yes, the temple is beautiful and I miss it, but I'm so grateful to have this community. Thank you.
Yeah. It would be, as you say that, I think if we didn't have this option, what would have happened to our community? I mean, really, it's kind of like my relationship to technology. I have so much gratitude and so much, I mean, in terms of the Dharma, how much is available to us because of technology, with podcasts and books and audiobooks and sanghas that we can visit all over the world, classes we can take. And yet there's nothing that compares with actually being able to be in close contact and share the intimacy of a local sangha, I think. So yeah, both are true.
Well, and on Zoom, we can see a smile on the face. If we go out in public with a mask, you're limited. And it really makes you understand how people with special needs or sensitivity issues, however it may be, it could even be harder when they have to wear a mask.
Yes, so, that's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything more before we move on to the present? Okay, so this is a good one. How am I different this year than I was last year at this time? And I would add that that because we've had a really odd, difficult 2 years. You could say, how am I different this year from last year or from 2 years ago before any of this really struck?
Hi, Maeve. Hi, everybody. It's Paul.
Hi, Paul.
I would like to think that I have become more flexible and more able to live with uncertainty. I know that I am better at that, actually. And I credit in large part, having been doing this practice for some time now, and being able to use the tool of this practice to sort of know which way to point myself, like when everything from the beginning of the pandemic, when everything kind of just like got thrown up in the air and we didn't know how it was going to come down, and really not being able to plan anything for more than, for myself, it was like I couldn't really see out more than a couple of months at a time. And it still has been like that, pretty much for the whole last couple of years. And I'm just so much more comfortable with that than I was 2 years ago. And, probably more comfortable with it now than I was a year ago too. And that's one thing, the planning thing. Another example would be just the way that I've become more comfortable with living in this mixture of different beliefs all around me, that are, wildly divergent and conflicting. And, there are, of course, times when I get angry and reactive, judgmental. But I also know that that's not like a sustainable way to live. And that it's also possible to just like drop it. And like we're not going to agree. And, that's just, that's part of life at this time, and even more so than ever before. And, it's possible to be at peace with that too. So
Yes.
those are just a couple things.
Yeah, those are great observations. I think it's been so strange and so unexpected and so chaotic, and yet it's kind of like grist for the mill or something, it's taken us through things we couldn't have imagined in terms of not being able to plan, as you say, having things fall apart, big events that we thought were going to be so wonderful and they didn't happen. And it's, we're still in that stage of uncertainty, but the practice, it really, really highlights the value and the blessing of the practice to really be able to be with what is, and even when it is feeling angry or feeling disappointed, that we can be there and then we can let it go. So thanks.
So Maeve, this is Marcia. I was thinking about your I Ching, the shocking component of it. That really rings true to me for this year. And I think some of the shock is my own reactions. Like I traveled and on a plane, for the first time in a while. And I just was so surprised at how shocked I was at what was happening. Like things didn't go as according to plan, but it wasn't like just usually traveling and things not going according to plan. It felt very different to be in humanity and be a part of it. And yet it was so foreign. It was so shocking to me how it was so different to be on a plane but it felt so uncertain and so unsettled and possibly turning in a weird direction. And my own fear of it, of just being amongst people, was, I don't think I've felt that way before, really, in that level. And it was just surprised. I just was like, wow, this is really scary. This feels very unusual. And so in that way, it's kind of like what Paul's saying too, of just seeing the humanity. Once I kind of got over the shock of things, I just really felt for people how much suffering there is in the mass of people moving around together. It's just palatable. It's like, wow, this is really different than I've ever been in crowds before. So that was just that shock, the shock of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. It's that, yeah, the sorrows and the compassion for everyone's confusion and everyone's uncertainty, and the sense of groundlessness, what we thought. I always think of that idea of the house of cards, we always thought we had this nice, yeah, there's a lot of things going on in the world. There's wars, there's people that are starving, but we're in this nice, settled, comfortable, and we still are really. I mean, we still are in those conditions, but the uncertainty of how long that's going to last or what's going to be around the next day has really pierced that bubble, I think, and that's good. So a couple more, and then I'm going to read a poem. Just this one that I just want to see if anybody has any thoughts on this. Are there any strategies, phrases, questions that have particular significance for you right now? And if so, why? So anything that particularly do you find yourself feeling any recurrent kind of questions or I would say that you realize or you suspect have some real significance for you? And what do you think that's all about?
I have something. This is Gwen.
Hi,
I was
Gwen.
reading some Pema Chodron, and she was, she always writes about these topics that are so relevant to COVID, like when things fall apart, or accepting the unacceptable, or whatever the title is. Yeah. And she asked a group of her students what they do when they feel lonely or despondent or angry. Where do they go with that? What's their refuge? And she hoped that people would be honest, and they were. And the kind of answers she got were things like, I eat, I watch Netflix, whatever their answers were. And she said she is trying to re-inspire people to find refuge in the Sangha and the Dharma and the Buddha. And she said, so when you find yourself needing refuge and you go for the refrigerator, just be honest and say, I'm seeking refuge in the refrigerator, or I'm seeking refuge in Netflix, or I'm seeking refuge in a drink.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been really, really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful to have refuge in the Sangha, and I thank the Sangha for that.
Yes. Yeah, that's a wonderful strategy. That's a great strategy to deal with those things, these defaults we fall back on that sometimes we need them, but they can become obsessions. They can become
habitual.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. So any more ideas there? I was going to read just.
Hi, Maeve. It's Marie.
Hi, Marie.
Just, I think I've enjoyed listening to everyone and the questions, and kind of it's like a, again, the blessing and the curse. I think with the shakeup of the last 2 years and what it's allowed to come up in each one of us, I always think is a great opportunity to, again, see what uncertainty brings up, what fears, and
Yeah.
the two things the two things that popped up with listening is I'm grateful how it's made me ask even more so what's real and how can I be more authentic? How can I be more real?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
things have been, and then also when I was listening about, like being amongst humanity, which I was thinking, as I was listening, I'm petting my dog and I'm thinking, wow, that's one thing. I've really come to appreciate my pets during this time.
A
but,
lot of it.
but I, I, with the conflict of belief systems and choices and stuff, I kind of see us as all just kids that got roused up and, maybe with a little confusion and fears that's making us, have, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
allowed more compassion,
Yeah. 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 Great. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your comments. They're really, really helpful for all of us, I think. I've only got a minute or so here before we have to do our metta and then have some announcements. So I hope you'll stay with us here. I'm going to read quickly this poem that I like, and it's a solstice poem for me. It's David White's Sweet Darkness. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your womb tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one in which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. So let's just take a minute here to send some metta to ourselves and to each other. So using these phrases that I'm going to recite, or you can think your own in your mind. May I live with an open heart and an open mind. May whatever blocks or covers my heart or my mind be removed, be dissolved, so that through open-heartedness and open-mindedness, I may experience true happiness. May I feel healthy and strong in mind and body, and may I be peaceful and calm and have ease in my life. May I be safe and protected from both inner and outer harm, and may I awaken and be freed from suffering. And as we feel these wishes to whatever extent it's available to us right in this moment, we let them spread throughout our inner body and then out into the body of this Sangha and out in all directions to the people in our lives, our loved ones, our pets, the creatures that share nature with us. And we send these same wishes all around this earth to all the beings on this planet and then out into the universe and beyond, so that we wish that all beings everywhere may be happy, may be at peace, may have ease in the things they need. All beings everywhere may be free. And if there's any benefit we've gathered through our practice here this evening, may we share that benefit with all beings everywhere, that we may all be at peace and be free and be happy. And now Jen's gonna